guys, welcome back to my channel. So today I'm going to be doing a video that I was really excited to film because this is something I'm genuinely passionate about, and it's chapter length. Now I know I'm not the only reader that feels this way, but short chapters are just one of those things in books that can be so satisfying, and I absolutely love picking up a book that has short chapters in it. And I know that a lot of readers feel this way, and I think it's because the stories seem to move really quickly for some reason, and you get through books for some reason faster, and it just feels like the stories move quickly. I don't know what it is. Maybe that's true, maybe it's not, but I know that most of you guys feel this way too. So I really wanted to make this video in my Read This If series, and it was actually kind of hard for me to put this list together because I couldn't remember what books had short chapters in them. In the comments below, I want you guys to write down some books that you have read that had short chapters in them, because I haven't read every book in the world. And some of you guys might have really interesting suggestions. Like, I know that like The Naturals and A Good Girl's Guide to Murder, I'm pretty sure has short chapters, which I actually didn't know that until I was kind of researching for this video. And so I'm like, okay, now I kind of want to read those more now because I know that they have like the short, quick chapters, which I really love. So the first book is one that I just wanted to talk about really quick. I've talked about this book many times on my channel, but this fits the topic, this fits the category. So it is Some 40 Tales from the Afterlives by David Eagleman, which is a short kind of essay collection about different possible afterlives and kind of what that means for your current life that you're living now. So it's kind of like a philosophical type of book. It is so flipping good. I highly recommend it. But the great thing about these little stories is they're literally only like 2 or 3 pages each max. Literally, they're usually like 2.5 pages or 2 pages. So each story is really short, but they're really impactful, and they have so much like thought-provoking things in them that just make you think. Like, I have literally read this book multiple times because it's that good, and I just love kind of picking it up and like picking a story to read. So I highly recommend this one if you like things that are just short and to the point and very thought-provoking at the same time. So this one's really great. The next one was the first book that I ever read that had really short chapters, and it was like that first realization of like, I love this book because of the short chapters. Like, it's making it really enjoyable to me. And it is Brain on Fire by Susanna Cahalan, which I've talked about many times on my channel as well. And this is a book about a girl who is just living her life as a journalist, and then one day she kind of like loses her mind and she kind of goes into a state of psychosis, and she has to figure out like what's wrong with her and like what's going on with her. And it's a nonfiction, so it's a true story, and it's really good. And this book has extremely short chapters. They're very readable, which I really liked. And I just feel like with nonfiction books, short chapters really help the readability with them. And I feel like this was such a good choice because I feel like a book like this could get kind of drawn out or a little bit winded, but because she kept the chapters really short, it was compulsively readable, and it made it really good, and it's why it's one of my favorite books to this day. The next one is Lovely War by, who wrote this? Julie Berry. This is a book I read a long time ago, probably like 2020 or 2019, I'm not exactly sure. Now this book is really good because it's in multiple perspectives. So this takes place within like the goddess universe, like Apollo and Athena and Aphrodite and all of them. And it's kind of their story, and it's kind of like how they meddle in human lives and things like that. And because it's in multiple perspectives, it kind of jumps from each person, but each like perspective is just a couple of pages, and then it will go to the next person's perspective. This is Eris, and it'll be a couple of pages, and then Aphrodite. So it's really quick, and I think it makes this book really fast to read and a little bit more compulsively readable. I think I gave this book 3 stars. This wasn't my favorite book of all time, but I know that a lot of people absolutely adored this book. If you're into like the Greek gods and stuff like that, I think that you could really like this book. And it also has a little bit of a romance in it. So this one is definitely good if you like short chapters and you like Greek gods. The next one is a book I haven't actually read yet, but when I was doing research for this video, I was like, I have that book, and I did not know that it had short chapters in it, so now it makes me kind of want to read it sooner. And it is The Girl with All the Gifts, but apparently this has really short chapters in it, and now I really want to read it because the chapters are pretty dang short, which would push the story along really well. And now I'm like really excited to read it. So if you guys are interested in books like this Then it says chilling and thrilling, heartfelt and painfully human. So it says every morning Melanie waits in her cell to be collected for class. When they come for her, Sergeant Parks keeps a gun pointing at her while two of his people strap her into a wheelchair. She thinks they don't like her. She jokes that she won't bite, but they don't laugh. So that's kind of the synopsis. That sounds really interesting to me. So short chapters, there you go. Like it looks like thick and kind of intimidating, but it's not because the chapters are short. The next one is another book that I did not know had short chapters in it, and I've been putting this book off for years. I think I picked this book up in like 2018, and then I have never read it since. And I think it's because I've always been a little bit intimidated by it, which I shouldn't be because this is like a YA book, but I just never have picked it up. But it's The Book Thief by Marcus Zuzak. And I'm like, that has short chapters? Like what? So I picked it up off my shelf, and sure enough, the chapters are short. And I'm like, okay. Like I've never actually opened up this book and looked at the inside, and there are pages with just like one paragraph on them. And I'm like, okay, I could definitely read this soon. Like I am very inspired to read this. Plus I've heard this book is phenomenal. It's so many people's favorite book of all time. And so it's always made me want to read it. So I've never unhauled it, but the time never felt right. But now that I know that the chapters are short and something that I really like, I'm definitely going to get to this sooner rather than later. So if you've been kind of doing the same thing as me, now you know that it's short chapters and we can all read it sooner now. So this is a new book that I picked up, and I was actually really excited when I picked this up and I kind of flipped through it because I love nonfiction, as you guys know, but I usually try to avoid nonfiction in physical form. I read it through audio, like I just like nonfiction on audio better. But when I was looking through this at the store, because I've been wanting to read this for a long time, it's been on my like TBR, and when I opened it at the Goodwill, I was like, oh, this book is short chapters, which means it'll be great to read physically. So it's The Good Nurse, a true story of medicine, madness, and murder. So this is basically a true story about this extremely prolific serial killer who basically was a nurse, and they killed their patients. And it's a true story. And I was super intrigued by it. I've heard this book is really, really good. And when I was flipping through it, I realized it was short chapters. So I was really excited about that, and it made me want to read this right away. So if you're looking for a good nonfiction and you like nonfiction, this one is a really, really good one if you like short chapters like I do. Or you have a hard time maybe reading nonfiction, like you feel like sometimes they draw out the chapters too long, or it gets a little bit repetitive or mundane. I think this one will move along really quickly because of the short chapters. So there you go. So the next book is Come Closer by Sarah Grand, and I just read this book recently. As you guys know, I think it was in my last wrap-up video, and this is a horror about a girl who starts going crazy. She starts like doing these really crazy things. She starts making these really bad decisions, and she doesn't know what's wrong with her, and her husband is like, what is like going on with you? You're just different. And she thinks that she's just like rebelling, but then she starts to think that maybe she might be haunted. And it's a really, really interesting story. I actually gave this book 5 stars. And I think one of the reasons I liked this book so much is because the chapters were short. And I didn't really realize it at the time that that's what was making me like read this so quickly. It's like very compulsively readable. And I think it's because the chapters are extremely short and you just kind of like move along the story really, really easily. It is a short book already, so it's not that intimidating of a book, but with the short chapters, it's just a fun little horror that you can just kind of get through really, really quickly, and it's just compulsively readable. So I highly recommend this one if you want to get some more horror on your shelf and you want to read something quick. This one is really, really great. I wouldn't consider this to be like overly scary, like it's not terrifying, but it is still a really cool, interesting story, so highly recommend. The next one is a book that I had on my TBR for a long time, and then I saw it at a thrift store and I picked it up and I was like, oh, hold on a second. And I was so surprised at how short and quick the chapters were, and it made me really, really interested in reading it more than I already was. And it is Sold by Patricia McCormick. Now this is a very triggering and like dark book, dark storyline, and it has very, very heavy subject matter. So this is about a girl who is basically sold by her parents into sex trafficking, basically. And it's a very sad story because she's very young and she's very little. but it's a really, really good story at the same time. And I actually think that there was a movie made about this, which I think is crazy, but there is a movie. But this book is so good, and I remember just feeling like this was also extremely compulsively readable, and it's because of the way that it's written. The chapters are really short. The font is very, very unique. It's written in a very, very unique way. I'll kind of flip through it so you guys can see. So each page, it's written just really very unique. That's really all I can say. So highly recommend this if you kind of like those more hard-hitting type of novels. This one is really, really good, really, really compulsively readable, and it's just one of those books that you can read pretty quickly, and it moves along really fast. So the next book is a book you either love or you hate. I was one of those people that really liked this book, and I know a lot of people do not agree with me, but I liked it. And it is We Were Liars by E. Lockhart, and I read this I think in like 2019 or something like that, like a long time ago, but I remember when I read it, I loved it. I thought it was so good. Now there's a few twists in this, and I did get one of the twists, but there was a really interesting ending that I just didn't see coming, and it was just a fun read that I thought was really good. But like I said, you could feel opposite because I know a lot of people didn't like this. But the great thing about this book is the chapters are short, so it's great for those of you who like that, or if you've kind of heard about this book and you've kind of had it on your TBR but you've just never got around to it. Maybe knowing that it's short chapters will kind of push you to read it. You'll get through this really fast, and I just find it to be a really fun kind of thriller that's just really, really easy to get through. And like I said, I really liked it. I gave this 5 stars. Like I said, I read it a long time ago, but I did give it 5 stars. It was really good in my opinion, and it does have short chapters, so obviously it had short chapters, like that's why you're watching this video. So the next book I saw on the list that I was looking at, and I didn't actually realize this book had short chapters because I read it via audio, but apparently it does. Don't take my word for it, but the list said that it did. And it's The Push by Ashley Audrain. So like I said, I read this via audio, so I didn't realize that the chapters were short, but the fact that it does have short chapters makes me wonder if like I didn't realize it, but like it's what made the story move so quickly and why I liked it so much. But this is one of my favorite books of all time. I think it's an absolute masterpiece, and if you've kind of wanted to read this but you just put it off, knowing that it has short chapters, you know, it might make you kind of want to read it, but it's so good, you guys. I highly recommend it. And I actually have been looking for this book at a thrift store because I want to buy a physical copy of it because I really, really want it on my shelf because it's one of my favorites, but I haven't found it at a thrift store yet, which is crazy. But I really do want the physical copy, and I can't wait to open it up and kind of see what the chapters actually look like. So anyways, if you've read this, let me know if that is correct and that this book does have short chapters. So the next book is The Humans by Matt Haig. So Matt Haig also wrote The Midnight Library, and The Humans is a really interesting book about an alien who comes down to Earth, and he has to take over another human's body to kind of study humans. So he's living in this human's body while he studies humans. It's very, very interesting. And this book is very short chapters, and it's kind of a very quick book to get through. I think I gave this book 3 stars, but I'm gonna be honest with you. This is one of those really rare books that I think I may have liked better if I would have read it physically. And usually I feel like it's opposite. Like, I feel like some books you just need to read via audio to like them more, but I feel like this is opposite. But it does have short chapters, which is a big deal, and it's a pretty short book. Like, I don't think this book is very long, so definitely check this one out if that synopsis sounds really good and you like short chapters. So the last one on this list is one that I highly recommend because it's very, very popular and a lot of people have read it. And it's one that you may have been putting off because you're just kind of unsure if it's for you, but it does have short chapters. So it is The Silent Patient by Alex Michaelides. So this book is really, really good. It has high ratings for a reason. It's really interesting. If you like psychological thrillers, you'll really, really like this one. And the fact that it has short chapters really pushes the story along, and it is phenomenal. So highly recommend this if you haven't read it yet but you've been wanting to. The short chapters make it compulsively readable and you'll really, really enjoy it. So that is the last book on this list. So that is it for this video. If you have any suggestions, leave them down below. I'd be very, very curious because there may be some books on my shelf that I haven't read yet that have short chapters that I didn't even realize, and I would love to read them sooner. So let me know in the comments below, and I will talk to you guys in my next video. Let me know if there is a certain category or topic that you want for one of these Read This If videos, and I would be happy to do it. And I think that's it, guys. So I will see you in my next video, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.